I just really hope my camera uh, has enough battery. What's up, guys? Well, hello, fellow audiophiles. Let me know how the audio is before we start here. I got a couple minutes here before YouTube officially, goes live. We are live, obviously, but I scheduled it for 10:35 to accommodate any. Aha! See, my camera's out of focus. To accommodate that. Technical issues. Come on, come on. There we go. Hello, hello. Good to see you, Scott. Good to see you, Chef Steve. Rob, good to see you. Audiofool. A lot of community members and forum folks. Actually, this might be a good time to let everyone know that we have a Discord now. If you haven't joined yet, definitely do. There's a link in the description of this that takes you to our Discord, and that's a great place for purchase advice questions if I intentionally miss. No, I'm just kidding. I would never intentionally skip that. But if I miss your question for one reason or another, there's a Discord there, and that's where I participate, but also where you can get info from other folks who may have heard things that I haven't, and just other takes as well, which is super important, as always. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes here, guys, to make sure that everything is good for audio, and then we will launch right in. And it looks like my camera just continues to not want to focus for some reason. It cannot detect that there is a face here. It thinks this is just a soulless husk, and it's not wrong. And then, what we'll do is we will get into impressions of the Talos, and then we'll do a Q&A with Spicy Hour, as usual, on these live streams. What's my mic setup? This is the microphone that came with the Bear Dynamic Tiger 300R Fox bundle. I think it's like supposed to be for their gaming stuff. It's actually not as good as the Audio Technica AT2020. It sounds okay. And yeah, I don't actually know why I'm using this one over the other one. The other one's better. I just plugged this one in and I've been using this one ever since. But I definitely need a dynamic microphone for this setup. Or I would like a dynamic microphone for this setup. I don't need it, I guess. Let me know how if it's clipping or anything like that. It looks okay on my end. What are your thoughts on the mind body problem? Yeah. Good questions from my past. Is this like, why is the camera not focusing on my face properly? Yeah, whatever. Doesn't need to. It just needs to focus on the IEMs when I hold them up. My thoughts on the mind-body problem. I think that it's highly relevant in audio. I was going to get to this actually a little later in the stream, but I tend to think that it's only a problem until extension, body, is able to push far enough to be able to explain all the things that we have in mind, which it does eventually, right? If you keep going with that debate, it eventually goes there. But the problem is that, like, if you then want to take that to like the perceptual problems in audio, and not just in audio but just like in all things, a nice analogy is like you can analyze a person's headache. Like somebody can analyze, if I have a headache, someone can analyze that from a physical perspective, like a biological, like here's what's going on, here's why you have a headache. Maybe it's a tension headache, some stress, whatever. You can actually analyze that in terms of both in like the functional or material cause or whatever, right? But the fact that I report that I have a headache is at the very least an indication of something. I could be wrong about that, but it's that report on its own still counts for something. So it's not to say that like you should rely on your subjective reports above all else and that they're infallible. They are highly fallible, but that's kind of the point. And so I think at most they should be treated as indicators, and then you look at it through a different lens if possible. But I don't think you should outright dismiss them as indicators. That's my take. Graphware. Yeah. Okay. Let's get started with the live stream here, guys. So today we're going to be talking about the new Talos. This is actually just going to be an impressions live stream, not a full review, because I have not finished taking the measurements for this one. So those are not posted yet. Thankfully, Dunu posts the measurements of these on their own website on their product page. So if you're curious about that, that is linked in the description. So I'm going to be describing kind of how this sounds to me. Also what I've done with EQ for it, because I did EQ this just a little bit. And then give some subjective impressions. And then we will get into Spicy Hour. If you're watching this later, there is a chance that the graphs will be out there already. And I will post those once I am finished with them, basically. It's just that I'm not done with them yet. So if you are curious for that, the first place that those are going to get posted is on the Headphone community forum in a dedicated thread. There is also something I want to let you guys know. In the next week or so, I'm going to be doing a Planar IEM roundup video, which is going to be covering the Timeless, the Dioko, the S12 and the Z12, and the Raptico hook, and now the Talos as well. I know there are other ones out there, but I think these are the more popular ones. I'm ignoring the Stellaris because that looks insane, and I know that that's not for me. That looks crazy. Yeah, I think those ones are probably good for that roundup. And oh yes, and then the ZTN. That one I do have measurements of. The ZTN is solid as well for the tuning, and it's not that it's blunted. It's just also not technical in the way that some of the other planar IEMs are, like the Timeless and the Dioko and this one. It's different. That's one where you could have told me it was a dynamic driver and I would have believed you. I don't think it is. I think it's a planar, like it says, but it does not sound like a planar at all. But okay, let's get going here. I'm just gonna start with the Talos, and then afterwards we'll get into Spicy Hour along with some Q&A, which is it's the highlight of my weekend. I do this for me. You guys are just along for the ride. So first things first, I'm obviously wearing them, but this is the case. It's the same style case that Dunu has for many of their newer budget IEMs, because this one is actually kind of budget. I don't know how much this is right now. Let me double check. I should probably find that out beforehand. If anybody knows how much the Talos is, let me know. But I am looking up right now. $200, 200 US, which is of course 12 million in Canadian Tire money. So yeah, same style case, and then of course, just like with other Dunu IEMs, just like with the recent one that I did, you get a bunch of tips in the box, right? And then I didn't notice on the end, here's the cable end, this one doesn't have the little termination plugs that you can switch out. So I think this is just, the cable that it is, and that's what you get. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that is reserved for some of their higher end stuff where they have slightly more room, I guess, to include that. But that's basically it. It's kind of no nonsense. As far as the accessories, I think it's fine. Let's just take a look at the IEM itself. I'm going to hold that up here. So I think this looks truly spectacular. This is one of the best looking audio products. Oh, nasty. I think this is one of the best looking audio products, period. But I want to get your guys' take on this. To me, this gives me like strong, like Diablo vibes for the logo. The D. Does anybody else get that? It's kind of cool, right? But the other interesting thing here, I'm just gonna show this. I know these are IEMs, and so it's finicky. But let me see if you guys can see this. You see this little switch right there? So that is, if you flip that switch to on, it goes into Planar plus BA mode. Now, Planar plus BA mode is it's different. Dunu has done the switch method in the past with their other IEMs, like the Sa6 and now the Sa6 Ultra, where what that does is it creates a bass boost. In this case, it's the opposite. It does a treble boost because it's when the BAs are enabled, you're getting more treble there. That's what they're dedicated to. Now, unfortunately, well, let's get into the sound. I just want to address one thing here. Someone's saying that looks bulky. I do want to address the actual shell and the nozzle here, and then we'll get into the sound. We'll just take the tip off. So this is the shell. The shell itself is not bulky. It's actually totally fine. It's one of the nicer looking, better designed planar shells. Like if you compare this to the Dioko looks hilarious. The Dioko looks like your grandmother's like brooch or something. This looks super classy. But I do want to let you guys know that the nozzle is a little on the thicker side. It's not super thick, but it is definitely, like, this is not as thick as some of the other ones out there. But it is on the thicker side. For comfort, it's actually reasonably comfortable, way more comfortable than something like the Softears RSV. I was just comparing with that. It's more comfortable than what you get with the Symphonium shells, at least for me. So even though it has a thicker nozzle, and it's tough to get like a full, like I found that this one is a little bit finicky for the fit to get a good seal, but I was able to do it. So yeah, I did have to tip swap a little bit to get the right one there. But anyways, let's get into the sound quality now. And for the tuning, again, I don't have graphs for this right now, but at some point it'll be there in the description on the forum. But the tuning for this is basically without the balanced armature mode, like with the toggle turned off, so it's just planar mode. It's kind of neutral. I would describe it as like neutral, bright-ish, with just like a little bit of awkwardness in the upper mids and treble. That's how I'll describe it. So with the bass, I actually find it to be a little bit bass lean for my taste. Even though, yeah, it does have a little bit of a bass rise, it just, for whatever reason, doesn't have as much, gumption or beef. These are my new favorite terms. But it's also like, I could see someone finding it to be closer to neutral if they don't like a bass boost. So it's a more subtle bass boost than some of the competition. Then also I find there to be a little bit of forward character at around 3K, like not exactly. Let me just see. Yeah, at around 3.5K, I find that to be just a little bit hot, but that's my ear canal doing its thing. So most good IEMs, they are a little bit shouty for me, and I find this to be in line with that. This is, again, just the planar mode. But the rest of the mid-range is pretty solid. I find the mids to be very enjoyable, and I think it's actually, the mids are probably the biggest strength on this IEM. Especially when it comes to instrumental music, jazz tracks, the pianos come through with extreme clarity, which is awesome. It's just that, when I start listening to vocals, there's a little bit of that kind of glare coming through in the upper mids at around 3.5K. Then after that is where things get into a little bit of trouble on the Talos. Again, just in planar mode. The treble has a couple of peaks. One of them is at around 8K, and it's basically between 6 and 8K, where there's a little bit of a rise there. And so this is going to get a little bit confusing depending on the coupler that gets used when you're looking at a measurement of it. Because if it's the RA0045 coupler, you're going to see the resonance peak there, and it's going to make it confusing. And if it's the RA0402 coupler, there's going to be some damping there, which is going to also make it confusing. So I'm just going to describe, like, for me, there's a peak at I wrote this down. For me, there is a peak at around 6.6K, but just a little bit of forward character there. And then there's also a stronger peak at around 8K for me. So that's where the consonant range comes through, the S's, F's, and T's. And what that does, I find at least, is it has this effect of causing a little bit of like a shrillness, kind of not unlike what you got with the HD 800 and 800S. Like that kind of shrillness character coming through is there on these. And so this is actually one where I bothered to get into EQ a little bit. That's what I reduced, and as soon as I did that, it was like, wow, this is right on the money. So in general, think of the tuning here as like a kind of neutral with a hint of shrillness. That's how I would describe it. Then, when you flip the balanced armature switch, so again, for folks who hadn't seen it, this switch right here, come on, focus. That switch. When you flip that, it goes into pure treble madness mode, like just crazy, ridiculous, fatiguing, like what other words? Sibilant treble. Like, I think categorically this was the wrong decision for the switch. It should have probably been, this is the thing, right? Like with planar IEMs, there's certain constraints and limitations, and I'm sure they just wanted to do a toggle of some kind to accommodate different listeners. But if that's the case, they probably should have gone with a warmer flavor instead of a brighter flavor, because the default tuning with the planar is already just a little bit on the edge of bright. So I wouldn't call it bright. I'd call it like somewhere in between. Like a good comparable would be like, some of those Hi-Fi Man planars, like the Aria, right? Like it's not Bayer dynamic bright or anything like that, but it is a little bit north for the ear gain there in the treble. So then when you go into balanced armature, plus mode or whatever it's called, then it is pure treble madness, and especially in the consonant range, and it's to the point where like immediately it sounds wrong. So think of it like two different tunings, one being slightly or mostly good, mostly solid, and the other being mostly wrong. That's how I would describe it. For the upper treble, I didn't have any issues with lack of air or extension or anything like that. I find it to be very resolving, but again, resolving in the extension sense. But again, with the balanced armature mode, it's just too much up there. Now, I'm sure that this is going to be different depending on the individual, and for the way that the area canal works. I'm sure that or the way that the fit works. I'm sure that there are some people out there who are going to enjoy the balanced armature mode. I emphatically do not. But that's all the tuning, tonality related stuff. Let's talk about some of the technical performance here, and for that, I find the Talos to be actually really good. This is in a similar category to what you get with the Timeless, and I think the Raptco Hook as well. So noticeably better than the S12 and the Z12 for that sense of clarity for trailing ends of tones. Instrument separation on this is fantastic. It's also better than the ZTN Wu for that quality, significantly better. This is one of the better planar IEMs for what audiophiles call detail. It definitely lacks on the sense of punch and impact and dynamics front, and this is another one where the base level is there, right? It does have a bass shelf, but it sounds a little bit softer or pillowy when compared to some dynamic driver or hybrid in your headphones. But apart from that quality, the actual clarity for the fine gradations of volume and the sort of tightness and immediacy of the initial leading edge and the control aspects, it's all very, very good on this, to the point where this is one where it's close enough to a frequency response, like a tuning that is good, I think. And for folks who don't like wearing over your headphones and don't want to get a Sundara, this is something to consider. and then just do a little bit of EQ there to your taste, because it was able to handle it. Like I did an EQ with this. I did a bass shelf by plus 3 dB at around 90 hertz. And then I dropped the upper mids by a little bit, and then fixed some of the issues with the sibilance and the treble. And yeah, it like now after doing that, it sounds phenomenal. It sounds just truly fantastic. And this is one of those ones where like I was doing that same EQ on the other planar magnetic in-ear headphones that are around this price, and I wasn't able to get it as good as this. Now I could probably spend more time with those, dial it in a little bit tighter with, by ear, but this is so far the best one for that I found, like for doing that EQ, or at least it was the easiest for me to EQ, right? Because I think you would be able to get the other ones there as well. But that's basically it for the Dunu Talos. My conclusion here is that this is a solid IEM if you are in the EQ gang. If you're not in the EQ gang, just be aware that one of the modes is potentially unusable because it is so ridiculously bright, and the other mode, and just the regular default mode, is just a little bit on the ear gainy side of things, not unlike the kind of shrillness that you get from an HD 800S. So that's basically my conclusion here. And I like, for what you can do with this and for what this represents, I recommend it. And it's one that I would personally also consider owning because the comfort is good. So that's would I take this over the Timeless? I think yes, because I think the fit is better. And for technicalities, it's on par. And both of them I would feel the need to EQ. So now let's dive into the Q&A. Feel free to ask about this, but also just anything that you want. Purchase advice, we can get into all of that good stuff. Like, is my camera doing like weird things for you guys as well? Like, maybe is it trying to focus on? Yeah, it's trying to focus on this. That's the problem. All right. Clearly, microphone is I. What's up, Metal 571? Good to see you, man. DMG's here. All right. How's the isolation? Yeah, isolation on this one is a bit of a mixed bag because the fit on this is interesting because, as I was mentioning, like I did have to tip roll to make it so that it was comfortable, but once I did, it is comfortable. All right, seriously, what is going on with this camera? There we go. That should work. But I find that, like, for whatever reason, it doesn't make it so that the back part here actually like presses up against your ear. It's just the nozzle that's like in there, right? So the back piece almost could have been like whatever. It just doesn't even come close to touching. Like maybe a little bit at the top end. So really the isolation that you're getting is just from the seal and the insertion, which is to say it's okay, but you got to make sure that you have that there. You have the seal. Someone is asking the Talos versus the Dioko. All right, so again, I'm just gonna run with the planar magnetic only mode because that's the only usable mode for this in my view, at least for unless you're like 80 or you have some sort of hearing damage. Older audiophiles might be into the balanced armature mode, but yeah. By default, I would say this is better than the Dioko because the tuning is less sharp. Like the Dioko is more sharp there than this, even though this has some quirks in the treble as well. It's not as off in the treble as the Dioko is. For technical performance, the Dioko punches significantly above its weight, and I would put it in a similar category for that. So again, if you're in the EQ gang, that might be that might actually be a better choice because it's less expensive. At the same time, I had a harder time EQing that one, and I have a much easier time EQing this one, and the fit is better on this one, and the size is better on this one, and the look is better on this one. So I think it's like those things should probably matter. But yeah, the Dioko, if you are in the EQ gang, it does represent good value. What the hell was that? Today is a weird day on stream, man. Weird things are happening for me. My camera is focusing on my hat. How are the dynamics? Is Dioko better? The dynamics are that I think that's one of the weak points. I mean, obviously there are people who don't believe that that's a thing, but I would suggest that on this one, it's one of the weaker points. Even though it does have a bass shelf, it does have a bass boost. It's I mean, this is the thing on the Timeless and the Joko, it's not really that special either. So for these ones, they don't have that sort of punchy quality that you get with something like a Kato. But as far as the rest of the technical performance they're sort of in the same ballpark. Timeless, Joko, and this one, pardon me, and Wrapped Go Hook, they're all sort of in the same ballpark. Which is to say, categorically better than most other IEMs at around the $200 price mark for those qualities, right? Like the tuning is still not quite right on any of them. I would rate the tuning for these planar magnetic IEMs as like Wrapped Go Hook and Timeless and and this one kind of all competing at the top. Then after that, I would place. Well, actually, I don't know if I should say that. Technically, the best tuned one is maybe I'd say maybe the ZTN Woo is in that conversation for the best tuned one. But it is still a bit too much ear gain for me on the ZTN Woo. Again, I'm just one person, but like to me, it's like just still too much there. But overall, I was very impressed with the ZTN Woo for the tuning. So maybe that one goes ahead for tuning. Then these three, so Timeless, Wrapped Go Hook, and Talos. Then after that, for the tuning is probably the Z12 and S12, and then after that would be the Joko, because the Joko is one of those where it's enough of an issue with the tuning that I'd consider it a deal breaker. Whereas with the Z12 and S12, they sound wrong in a number of ways, but they're not enough to be deal breakers. They're more this sort of like fun flavor to them, but and I think that's fine. There's nothing there that is outright offensive. It's just that after a little bit, you start to realize things sound just a little bit wrong in a couple of places. Whereas in the Joko, it's like it's enough to be a bit offensive. In the treble there without EQ. So there's that. And that is, after tip rolling and stuff like that. So at the moment, I actually, it's funny because even though I mentioned that, and to me tonality is critically important, especially for in-ears, I would place in last place right now for me for the planar IEMs, like apart from some of the tin hi-fi, like the P1 and stuff like that are just like ridiculous in the treble. Apart from those, I would place like the Z12 and S12 kind of in last place there, even though I do think they're good. Like, yes, I think that they are generally enjoyable. I like them at least. But because they are a little bit too blunted, they don't have quite the clarity for trailing ends of tones as the next ones up, they are in last place for me. Then I suppose it is it's a worthwhile question as to what comes after that, but probably the ZTN Woo comes after that for me, because to me that one just sounds like a well-tuned IEM with nothing really that special about it, but I suppose that's a good thing, right? Then after that comes in my view, after the Z12 and S12 would probably be the Joko, then the ZTN Woo, then the Timeless, and then Wrapped Go Hook and this one for me are kind of tied for my favorites. That's how I would describe it. But that's just me, right? Like that's just like what my favorite things are. Other people might have different reasons for preferring one over the other, and I can totally see it because they're all generally good. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's keep going. More questions. Someone's asking about the Sa6 Ultra. Did a video on that. First impression on that. It's very good. I think it's crazy that they would stop at only 300 units. So maybe they'll bring it back. Maybe they'll do another round of another run. They would be smart to do that, I think. But Sa6 Ultra is solid. someone was saying that like it has better technical performance, and no, I was comparing with the original, and it's the same. It's just that like, and I think this is what I was mentioning in one of the other live streams. It's like for a lot of the time, even like for myself, like before getting into the measurement stuff, it is difficult to sort of isolate. It is difficult to like figure out, okay, what is clearly identified on the graph with things that you can't find on the graph, because that's really, it's the objective subjective, uh, or I don't know if I'd call it the tonal technical dichotomy, because I don't like the term technical performance, because I think we should be just calling it like subjective sense. But you get the idea, right? For that, yeah, I find the Sa6 to Ultra to be in the same category. But that's, I don't want to discount people's like experiences. I just think that a lot of that stuff is identifiable in frequency response if you go looking hard enough, right? You could figure out what's actually correlated there with the experience. Did you hear the Symphonium Meteor yet? Yes, it's excellent. It's a little bit much for me in the upper treble, or like mid treble to upper treble. I don't know exactly where because I haven't measured it, but yeah, I thought it was very, very good. Yes. Are the Sa6 Ultra sturdy enough for daily office and commuting use? Especially the connectors. Good question. I can't answer that because I haven't used them for a long period of time. They feel sturdy. They don't feel like they're going to break, but it's that same sort of like acrylic shell that... Like I will say that like when... They're not the kind of thing that you feel you need to baby. Like if you just put them down on the desk and you can be confident they're not going to chip or anything like that. For the connectors, I mean that some people like 2-pin, other people hate 2-pin, so I think it's fine. But yeah, I can't really answer more than that because I've only got to use it for a couple days. I love how the Talos looks, and Dunu does great builds, but it's funny how its look says dark, and from what you're saying, it sounds exact opposite of that. Yeah, these are definitely not dark. That's, yeah. If you're looking for a dark tuning, I would not go with these. If you're looking for a version of neutral, with a significant amount of ear gain there, the default tuning on this is fine. It's I'll put it this way, it is one of the better tuned planar magnetic IEMs, but not the best tuned planar magnetic IEM. Let's keep going. Oh, I noticed I was peeking there a little bit. Sorry about that. Have you tried the Bravura? Yes, it's outstanding. I did a measurement of that. I was like, because all I did was really I posted I think a forum thread and a Twitter post with it, but like I spent that same day when I was doing the measurements just listening, and it was one of those where I was kind of just like, okay, now I need to actually get some work done, because this is like something that could just draw all of my attention for the rest of the day. It's really good. Like it's not. I had the Susvara next to it too, right? And it's like it's different enough in terms of the presentation that it's hard for me to say like one is categorically better than the other. I think my preference still leans Susvara. Like Susvara has this sort of like effortless quality to it that no other headphone has. I can't really describe it. But as far as the actual tonal balance of the Bravura, or between the two, I think the Bravura probably wins there because it actually has the bass, like a little bit of a bass lift. But yeah. I'm just gonna catch up here. Hey, Seb's in the chat. What's up, VSG, Phil, Senior C, all the people. Talos with IE600 foam tips. I'll need to try that. That's a great suggestion. That is a great suggestion. Yeah, thank you for that. All right. I figure like we could launch right into Spicy Hour, guys. Like, let's go. Have you seen Lachlan's recent YouTube video on YouTube about the unreliability of IEM measurements attributable to ear canal differences? No, but I think, but that sentence is actually, yeah, I think that's a good sentence. That would explain it. Yeah. I think there's two things. One is, it's worth, if you haven't seen it yet, and I'm recommending everybody do this, check out Jude's presentation, his HBK presentation, the Huttinger Brill and Care thing, where basically he's talking about, well, at least at one part of it, he's talking about the differences among the different couplers. And if you look at like the seven, like what's going on with the 711 stuff, it's not really a human ear canal. And if you compare that to what you get on 5128, it actually does look like a proper ear canal. Oh, what's up? Let Sure is here. I was gonna call you Jenny. But yeah, it's so I think one of the issues with IEM measurements not being reliable is the coupler. And I think this is also one of the reasons, like I agree with Jude basically. And this is one of the reasons why I think we can all collectively stop using Harman IE 2019 for, I mean, most reviewers have already stopped using it because it doesn't sound very good. But I think there are now also, you know, more grounded reasons as to why we don't need to, we probably shouldn't be using that one. And it has to do with the coupler. That's one thing. The other reason why IEM measurements are difficult, or at least it's difficult to correlate IEM measurements, is something that Krins mentioned a long time ago, which is that because there are fewer interactions with your ear, like there's an IEM is bypassing many of the interactions with your ear that over your headphones would have or speakers would have. The manufacturer needs to assume more about your ear anatomy, and I think because of that, you're going to have more variance in terms of the way people hear things, and sort of what the brain expects to be normal there at the eardrum. And so, yeah, I think it's like one of them is an issue to do with the coupler, the measurement device. The other is an issue to do with the person, or just people in general. And I think that actually poses a big problem, because when you look at something on a graph, I think for most people the default is that this is a statement of truth about the way that a thing performs, and they don't consider that is going to be very different at the eardrum of individual people, and specifically at their own eardrum. Right? And I think that's, you don't go into reading a graph with that mindset. And that it makes it very, very difficult to properly correlate that. And that's why I think you have to do the Metal 571 method, which is to do, basically you can do sweep, like a manual sweep to figure out where the peaks and dips are. Like the major ones, the major deviations from what your brain hears as normal. Talos better or worse text than the Woo? Better. I like the Woo though too. I think it's good. You Phil really only really has eyes on Symphonium these days for IEMs. I would too. Like I think Symphonium makes some of the best sounding ones, very competitive ones, but the shell and the nozzle, like on the Helios, it's sorry, I've lost my voice a little bit. The shell on that is just a bit a bit much. But otherwise, yeah, I would be a Symphonium boy all the way. I'd love to do Symphonium. Would be really cool to do a collab with, because all I would do is change the shell. But I guess then that might, entail changes to the tuning as well. Drinking my very strong coffee. The newer shells seem better these days. Well, the smaller ones from the Meteor, they seem legit. Yeah. So when do we get the resolve target curve? For IEMs, so here's the thing, right? I What I don't like about the individual reviewer target curves is that like we're all just one person. Like each of us is just an individual listener. And as much as I'll as I've just said, Harman 2019 IE is wrong. Like there's issues with it. Um, it's and probably with the 5128 there will be new research and we will learn the error of our ways and everything, right? I still think that we need to be using targets, unless like we need to at some level be using targets that aren't just based on individuals, because with individuals you have two confounding variables. One is the physical shape to their ears, right, and then their HRTF on an individual basis, and the other is what people's preferences are, and you don't know if the individual, even if we're talking about reviewers here, we don't know if they are representative of an average or of the norm for their preferences. And I think it's nearly impossible to get there, and that's why I'm hesitant to say we should have the resolve target. At the same time, I have it, if people want to know what it is that I find to be neutral, or a reference point of neutrality for me, if they think, oh, that's that, if I have a ear canal that is similar to his, or if I have preferences that are similar to his, that's also worth, it's relevant. But I don't think it's as useful as having something that is more, average person focused. That should be the point of a reference curve, I think. You thought the resolve target was the Harman combined thing already. Yes, but that's the one that I use for over-ear headphones. But that's also not necessarily what I, would personally use for myself, if that makes sense. Those are based on the research. The intention there was to do what I could to remove the bass boost from the unwashed masses, basically. And the benefit of keeping the rest of the target there from 2018 or whatever it is, whatever year it was, is that it removes the shout of 2013. 2013 is kind of shouty. So there is a sense in which it is my preference of what I like from the target. There is a sense in which it is that, but it's not just based on me as an individual. It's based on the Harman research, essentially. The resolve target curve is the Theaudio Oracle FR. Yeah, I mean, that's also not a target curve. That's just comparing it to another IEM. I think, for me, the Oracle sounds more neutral than most IEMs. I wouldn't say it's perfect, not perfectly neutral, but something with the ear gain level of the Oracle. So something I could do is just use the Oracle FR and then smooth it to 1/2, right? That theoretically that's doable. But I also, I tend to think that at the very least we should do the research on the 5128 and then use whatever the research is there, because that is more representative of a human, and it is something where we can get closer to a result that fits for the average or the norm. Do we have information on the standard deviation for the Harman IE target? I'm sure that standard deviation, you mean like I'm sure that exists in the research. Off the top of my head I can't think about what that is. But the research for that stuff is very thorough. Are you saying like because there's also like the segmentation stuff. But here's the thing for me, and I think for a lot of people, Harman IE 2019 doesn't sound like Harman over ear 2018. Like the bass level is very different sounding, and there aren't really any reasons why. And so, I was asking Sean, like, hey, is it maybe because people are sort of compensating for the lack of physicality or something like that with in-ear headphones, or like there's some psychoacoustic thing? And I don't think he actually knows either why the bass is the way that it is. Or at least he couldn't think of it. And but then Jude's answer seems quite compelling, that it is actually because of the coupler. The Harman research is on Audio Engineering Society. It's behind a paywall, unfortunately. There's about, what was that, like $100 a year or something like that? Oh, you don't recall seeing it in the research. Standard, like, so what do you mean by standard of deviation then? Like, do you mean like where, like for the results, or do you mean like if there was like a different preference? Um, because it might be that you just need to check out one of the other papers, because there's like the whole, like the way that stuff works is like it's a series of papers that are meant to kind of like intertwine, connect, and kind of validate one another. So it might just be in one of the other ones. VSG, you publish your research in open access journals wherever possible. Yeah. Oh, how wide the variation was. I think that the best, like, I always mention this. You've probably read it, but the segmentation paper is helpful in getting a sense of where people fall as far as their preferences go and what the spread is for that. But I don't know of one that's specific to, that's dedicated specifically to Harman IE 2019. But it might be there. I'm not sure. There was another question I wanted to answer that I saw. Guys, now is spicy hour, so let's go. Let's go with the spicy takes. I don't see any yet. Let's bring the fire. Hit me with all the rage. Tell me why I'm wrong about all the things. Resolve doesn't like the S12. No, I do like the S12. It's just my issue with the S12 and the Z12 is twofold. One, I was gonna say they don't sound quite right, but I guess that would be the most obvious, critique. No, it's just that compared to other planars, they are the least technical, right? That's how I would describe that. They are a little bit on the duller and blunted side of things. They have a fun tuning that it is captivating initially for me, but then after a little bit I go, oh, there's something not quite right here and there, and then that sort of like, lopped off quality for trailing ends of tones is, I mean, compared to the other ones, it's just not quite there for me, right? But I do enjoy them. I have to be clear. Like, I do think that, this new round of planar IEMs that are, cheap, it's awesome. And I think that S12 and Z12, they have their place in that lineup. They belong in that group. Resolve having planar fatigue already. I see, this is the thing, right? Like, I know there's whole communities out there who are just solely focused on dynamic driver stuff. I'm part of those communities. I know them. You are too, listener. Yeah, you know. But I personally prefer planars. I find them to be, like, for the music that I listen to and what I listen for in music, and I love that separation quality in music. To me, that's so important. And yeah, planars, they do a great job at that. All right, I see some spicy stuff here. Listener says Harman tilt should have been 10 dB instead of 9.9 to 9.2 dB. That's what even is that as a spicy take? Do you credit Zeus with the okay, there we go. Do you credit Zeus with the success of the Sa6 Ultra? No. Like, I credit Dunu with the success of the Sa6 Ultra. No, here's the thing, all right? Like Zeus, he's not an idiot. He knows what the uh the sentiment to the SA6 is. Oh yeah, it's amazing. I just wish it had a little more air. And then he's like, let's do that. Or it wouldn't even surprise me if Dunu were like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you want to do it as a collab? And he's like, yeah, let's do that. Like I would too if they approached me with that. I would say, yeah, I would say exactly the same thing. So sure, he didn't really do much as far as like he wasn't that influential in the tuning because everybody kind of knew what they wanted from the SA6 or the next version of the SA6. So no, I wouldn't. It's the same thing with the S12 and the Z12, where he's just like, let's add a little bit more bass, and it's otherwise the same, identical, just with the different color scheme. But at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. I don't think anybody should care whether or not Z was influential in that, or it was just a collaboration thing where they could leverage his clout, I guess, and his name. I don't think that matters. At the end of the day, it's a freaking amazing sounding product. So and that we should all be happy for, right? It doesn't matter that it's a Z reviews thing or whoever. Like this is the same thing with Kryn stuff, right? Like whether it's Kryn doing Kryn does do like a lot of he has a lot of dialogue with the manufacturers on what he thinks should be changed. That's not all done the same way, but like I don't think we should care who is responsible for that if the end result is a good one. All right, now we get some spice here. The Eddie ER series are the best because they bypass the ear canal. Just like straight at the eardrum. Spicy. Is Headphones or Dr. Olive hiring PhD grad student? I'm tired of publishing journal papers on AI, but love audio. Where to submit applications? I mean, yeah. I actually think that Harman International is hiring right now. I saw there was a call for, I think Sean put that out on Twitter. We obviously want to do research. We want to do more stuff like that, but it's a matter of putting time and dedicating a process to that, which we haven't yet got dialed in because there's so much else going on right now. But yeah, I mean, we're getting 5128 in soon, and we want to be doing like the research I want to do is also to a certain extent the preference research. But what I want to do is validate it with results like taking drivers and putting them into other chassis and stuff like that. Or like in our case, what we're doing, like how we're making like a headphone with a custom driver and everything. The whole point of that is as a research project, right? And because the benefit there is that nobody's going to be persuaded by price or by any sort of external framing effects and other potential biases if they look the same, right? They're just kind of bare bones, nothing. There is no mechanical or industrial design yet. So there's none of that that's going to be having an effect on people's judgments about technical performance or any of this, and all we're really doing is changing individual parameters one at a time. So basically the only thing we're at a point now where the only thing we're changing is the diaphragm material, and there are very clear differences that are so obvious, and it's fascinating to me. So I guess I'm not going to get too into that. At some point there will be something that I'm sure we publish on this, right? But one of the diaphragm materials, one of the recent ones, was like it has the most ridiculous mid-range detail, and the same design with the just one different, like a slightly different diaphragm material. It doesn't have anywhere near the same kind of detail in the mid-range. Like it's just, and these are all with EQ to the same, result in a graph. So, whether we're talking about differences of FR at the eardrum or what, like, to me at this point, it's more like what are the parameters that shift that we can then identify as contributing to these qualities. Certainly with that one, it was a contributing factor. It was like, oh my God. And yeah, like everything, it's like, all else being equal, right? So now, of course, I'm just one person. But now what I want to do is take those different ones and send them out to different people and see if we get the same conclusions that I did. Maybe we don't. And then that's another interesting thing, right? But so far, all the people who've heard them have come up with the same, result. Okay. God's headphones are stacks. That L700 was insane. I want to get one of those in. IEMs. Oh wait, I'll get to that one in a second. Why are you telling me things I already know? Resolve just said earlier that you need to do sine sweeps on your own head to figure out how better to EQ. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what that's in response to. Oh, is that in response to DMG? Yeah, no, that's... Yeah, you have to... I would say especially with IEMs, like even more so, because again, it takes less of your actual anatomy. Less of your actual anatomy is affecting it. So, yeah. I find that most IEMs sound slightly wrong until I dial in just a little bit with EQ. There are very few that sound on the money. Those few for me are like Sa6 and Sa6 Ultra, 64 audio U12T, to a lesser extent the U6T. Even that one has some colorations, but they're pleasant and fun colorations. So the audio Oracle I'd consider as well. And it's funny because the Oracle is a great example of one that measures pretty similar to something like the Eclipse, I think it was called, and the Eclipse has an issue in the treble, whereas the Oracle does not. So it's really difficult to identify that from a graph. You actually need to do the sweep manually. Next one. IEM/sensitive headphones don't ever need dedicated amp/DACs. An Apple dongle is enough. Unless you want to do something with it, like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would agree if it's sensitive. That's probably all you need. I don't know if that's a spicy take. I think that's just like a mathematical take. But yeah, if all you care about is getting it loud enough, yeah. And not all IEMs though, because there are some that are less efficient. Next one here. What do you feel about the suggestions from the Campfire Planar driver the suggestions that the Campfire Planar driver costs $5 and is available off on Alibaba? I actually have not heard of that. I don't know that. Are you talking about the one that's in the Supermoon? My understanding was that it's the same one that's in many of the new, like the new budget planar IEMs. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if it's the same one, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's the same platform. Again, it's hard to know because maybe there is a change, like in the diaphragm material or something like that, where it would have a tangible, meaningful outcome for people. But without taking it apart, it's hard to know. But it would not surprise me if it is that same platform. Records sound best. I don't know, man. I know that like my guys like Andrew and Taryn, they're getting more into that stuff these days. They heard some recently, I think, at Can Jam, and they really enjoyed it. So, vinyl, that is. Zeus has an audience. Z12 first batch sold out quick. Yeah, it's effective. But here's the thing, right? We should all be happy that this is happening. Like, I know that there's like collab fatigue, right? And I think rightly so. But this is and yeah, it's like reviewers are being used as marketing instruments, right? But I don't think that that's a bad thing if especially in the cases where like they're legitimately trying to deliver sound quality that they think is great to a wider audience. Not only do you stand a good chance of like not only is it like a recipe for success for better products, but you also get a sense of what that reviewer likes in an ideal outcome, right? Because I'm sure that there are also other, situations where it's literally just a marketing instrument. But I think fundamentally, like the principle of, taking feedback from the people who are evaluating all of these things is a good thing. When is the 64 audio and Resolve headphone show collab coming? Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be awesome. Maybe I should just do this. Maybe I should just like reach out to people and be like, hey, so that collab thing that people are doing? We should do something like that. But I don't have the kind of, I don't have the kind of influence that Zeos has. Not yet, at least. More drivers sound more better. Tia Trio technicalities plus Resolve target tuning. I'm giving away my secrets. No, I haven't talked to those guys yet, but I would love to. Maybe we will. You need to study statistics if you don't know what standard deviation. No, I know what the term standard deviation means. I'm saying specifically, I'm not sure what he's referring to in the research for what he's referring to, like what he's asking for. That's why I said if it's standard deviation for the results, or if it's something more along the lines of like segmentation, because like you also need within the Harman research, right? This is something that like people often get wrong. They say it's based on only 200 or whatever, like a handful of people, and they say that's not enough people to know for sure that this is that doesn't validate it, right? But the problem is that you can actually calculate statistical significance for that, and I can't remember the term for it. It's like a one sample t-test or something like that. You can actually like calculate how significant it is. The sample, if the sample size is sufficient from the results, and I remember when I was reading. It was one of the particular papers I remember reading going, yeah, they validated, the sample. So I don't think that that's a great criticism against Harman, that they didn't use enough people or anything like that. Resolve's ear canals used to match Harman tuning exactly, but had them altered at a private French clinic. No, see, for over ear it's fine. It's the in-ear one that's the problem. The in-ear one is the problem for sure. And I did used to use the in-ear target, like the Harman in-ear target, but I found, well, like, so here's my thinking on it, right? Like, even if you don't like the way that tuning sounds, like that reference point sounds, it's still good to use it because it's been proven that it works for the majority of people. But now that we have good reasons to assume that there's an issue with that, especially in the bass level, which is going to throw off everything else, I see no reason to continue to use it, basically. Collabs is expensive because sometimes we get a set of parameters, and a lot of the times we can't find off-the-shelf drivers that would work well together to achieve said params. Yeah, like, so this is the other thing, right? Like, somebody could come to me and say, hey, we want to do this collab, what do you think? And I'd be like, all right, change it to this tuning. And they'd be like, well, not with this set of technology. My understanding from talking actually with Tom from Dunu, when we had a live stream with him, he was talking about how a lot of the modeling for multi-BAs and hybrids has been figured out, but it was much harder. We're talking in the context of dynamic driver stuff, but it's much harder for to get the tuning right for that. So it's one of those where I would probably want to do something with, BAs and hybrids or something, or tribrids, something like that, just because I think that my tuning preferences would be specific enough where I don't know how. I think it'd be pretty difficult to do it with planars, for example. I mean, I'd love it, right? I think it'd be great if you guys could be hearing what I'm hearing right now with my EQ applied to the Talos. That would be dope. But as Jenny has pointed out, it's very difficult to do. It's not always as simple as just saying, here's a target, here's a curve, hit it. Spicy take. Once you've attained a certain amount of detail, retrieval / clarity, enough is enough. Searching for more after that is unneeded. I am inclined to agree. Harman ear canals coming to stores soon. Yeah, let's just replace them. Your newest hire was a massive mistake. Who is our newest hire? Our newest hire is somebody who I'm actually very excited to have on the team. I'm excited for everybody on our team, but our newest hire is, yeah, I'm not gonna make the announcement right now, but some people know. If you're in our Discord, you probably know. Which, by the way, Discord's linked in the description. So if you want to tell me I'm wrong, go there. The appropriate emoji for hot take should be mushroom. Just like Rob's profile picture. I use my HE1 of the Apple toggle. Can't confirm it's all you need. Okay. I'm going to skip a bit and then get to more spicy takes. So if I missed your spicy take, just ask it again. Or just if you have a question, feel free. Because I need to catch up. Companies are intentionally trying to oversaturate the market to trigger FOMO in enthusiasts. Interesting. There is a sense in which I could see companies benefiting from a quicker, basically a cadence of hype trains and short runs. So rather than having a thing that is a long-term thing in the market, you can do a thing like the Sa6 collab, the Ultra, and just do 300 units with with an exclusive partner who's committed to that, and then just basically ride that hype train for a quick win. And then you do another one with a new hype train, right? Whereas if products are in the market longer, the hype train doesn't continue. You get a big hype train initially, and then it kind of tapers off as new products come in and the FOMO kicks in. So I think there is a sense in which manufacturers or companies in general, whether it's manufacturers or dealers, they may benefit from this, or they figured out a strategic way to benefit from this. But I'd hesitate on the assumption that there's some sort of organized effort to do this kind of market saturation thing. I don't think that there's an intentional let's just churn out everything and oversaturate so that we can get I don't think that's an organized effort, basically, even if in practice that is, I think, beneficial to them. Zeus is the Andy Warhol of headphones. Oh, Zeros or Zeos? I don't know what you mean there. Resolve needs to read the chat faster. Yes, but then I can't answer the questions thoroughly. We need another live stream with Alan. Yeah, for more of his stories. Nice bong sound. Sorry. Yeah, it's when I hit the microphone by accident. I've caught up now. Talk about research and the viewer count drops. Yeah. I don't do these for if I wanted to have strong viewer count on these live streams, I probably would focus on doing live reviews of those hyped products or comparisons. I was actually originally going to do this live stream as a comparison between the 4-screw HE6 and the 6-screw HE6. Realistically, they're not really that different. I mean, they are different in the ear gain region, but a lot of this is likely due to pad differences for the way people perceive these. But I didn't do that today because I forgot them at the studio because that's where I was doing the measurements. But yeah, I think if I wanted to do like, increase the viewership in these live streams, I'd do giveaways, that kind of stuff. But this is really just like it's my Saturday, and I want to spend an hour or two hanging out with my friends. um let's continue. Any thoughts on the SU10 versus topping D90 SE? It does not matter. I do not think that any of that stuff matters. Get whichever one is more convenient or cheaper. Totally agree with the spicy take of enough is enough, or I wouldn't still own and use a lowly LCD too. I was even going to say like a Sundara. Or these. Yeah, Sa6. Because at a certain point you need to flip the switch back from audiophile to music enjoyer. At a certain point you have to do that, I think. And I think you guys get what I mean when I say that. Opinion on Fostex T60 RP Argon. Ryan's thing. I haven't heard it. Or if I did hear it, it was only at CanJam briefly because I did go to his booth there. That dude is one of the coolest people in all of audio. And I would love to have another live stream with him or just talk more with him. That dude is remarkable. So big shout out to Ryan from Modhouse. I need a warmer, cheaper option to my U12T. Warmer than the U12T. SA6. Probably. Sundara with a nice amp sounds better, plus more detail than anything most of your favorite musical artists have ever heard. Sundara remains the greatest value for money in hi-fi audio. It's up there, man. Definitely. I do, yeah. Metal's not going to like the MM500. It's going to be too shouty for him. It's like, it's just barely too shouty for me, which means it's definitely too shouty for him. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I keep hitting the microphone because I had to put it down here. A 6 screw is the best because that's the one you have. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, I didn't find them to be that different from one another. The 4-screw FR was weirder because it had... Well, there's also a channel imbalance in that unit where on one channel it had like ridiculous ear gain. On the other channel it was totally fine. But I think, and I used the same pads on both and found that, they react similarly to pad changes. So really I don't think you need to go spending all kinds of extra money to get a 4-screw. I think I think whatever differences there are, they've been exaggerated. A hot tub stream where you bathe in your favorite electrostatic headphones. Instant 100k viewers. Exactly. That's if that's what if I wanted like tons of viewers on these live streams, I would just do hot tub streams, swimming in electrostatic headphones. That's what I would do. True wireless are getting so good that budget IEMs will soon-ish be irrelevant. All right, I like this topic. So this is... we actually have a roundtable video coming out soon on the AirPods Pro with the other guy, so I don't want to ruin that. But the AirPods Pro 2 is so good that while I don't think that the $50 stuff or $100 stuff would necessarily have anything to worry about as far as wired IEMs is concerned. The stuff that's around the $200 price mark, apart from the planars, like the hybrids and dynamic driver stuff at around the $200 price mark, I think should have something to worry about. I really think so, because this isn't that much more expensive, and you get the noise canceling benefits as well. The sound quality for this is somewhere around $150, I'd say, if I were comparing it to wired stuff. And really the sacrifice, like the distance is so much smaller now between the AirPods Pro 2 and good wired IEMs at a similar price point. Now, obviously, the Blessing 2 and Blessing 2 Dusk are like, that's definitely better sound quality for sure. But it's now to the point where you're making fewer trade-offs for the benefits of wireless and noise canceling and whatever other features you get with this. So, yeah. AirPods Pro 2, man. It's really good. I strongly feel that the true wireless space has a lot of room to grow. We haven't seen nothing yet in terms of higher quality codec. Yeah, that is definitely something that is needed. But as the guys and I were chatting about this, just earlier this week, I would rather have a worse codec and a better tuned, product than a shit tuned product on an amazing codec. So right now they're still at some sort of middle ground there, but the tuning is definitely on point with these, and it's like, would I ask for better tuning than this? I mean, yeah, I'm sure that it exists, but it's not that far off. Oh, I would take the AirPods Pro 2 over the Moondrop Chew any day. I don't think that's that close. In the end, tonal balance is most important. It is. I agree. It is. Ryan was on Michael DeLazar's stream. He asked, so are you like famous? So like, none of us are actually famous in this, right? Like, I get recognized when I go to CanJam. I've been recognized once. Well, once here on the street, I was recognized. That was weird. And then once I was recognized at a camera store. Like, I walked into the camera store and the guy was like, headphones. And then I was wearing a mask, right? This was during the pandemic. And then he's like, oh, maybe I have the wrong person. I was like, no, you got the right person. He was telling me about his LCD X, I think he bought. And I was like, dude, awesome. So the hobby exists in real life too, turns out. I use the Sysvara 1/20th the time of the Galaxy Buds Pro. Hearing you with the Buds now. I certainly hope the Galaxy Buds Pro sound better than the Pixel Buds Pro. I think they do. I haven't tried the original Galaxy Buds, just the 2. Buds 2 Pro is the one I heard, it was okay. Did you check out the JBL Tune 710 BT, the DMS reviewed? No. Dream Blunt Rotation, Sean Olive, Metal, Golden Sound in a Mirror. That would be a good stream. I do want to have more guests on. It's just I do these, and it's like at the end of the week, and the organizational requirements to find a good time for everybody, it ends up being challenging, and I don't want to eat into other people's video game time. So we should, if we do these kinds of streams like where we have people on, it should probably be during the week sometime. WF-1000 XM4s were decent. I thought they were okay. They were the lesser of many evils, one of those. Pixel Buds Pro were just horrific. People don't like that I didn't like them, but they are some of the worst sounding things. Immediately wrong sounding. Just truly awful. I hope that Google implements like an EQ or something to fix it. I think they did, do this after some feedback. Companies need to make true wireless that allow the user to customize parametric EQ and DSP stuff. Definitely more potential than traditional wired stuff. I completely agree. Just do every stream with Mad and make him answer questions in chat instead of doing actual work. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, Mad's we're all quite busy doing many things. That's why, I saw some comments like people were saying, they missed some of the reviews, that I used to do on a more regular basis, and I am just working to get back to that. I want to get back to that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's in the pipeline, but it's just that there's so much going on right now. There was an update for the Pixel Buds Pro which totally changed their tuning. Oh, you work at Google? Okay. I will. Yeah. So I've heard that there's an update, and I need to do the firmware update and do another test. So I really do hope that they fix that. I have something here, guys. 1 second. I'm going to show you something that might be kind of fun. 1 second. Scott scheduled a meeting with that team as soon as results review came out. Yeah, if you have any influence at Google, get them to, they're welcome to join a live stream and we can discuss it. Okay. I'm going to show you guys something, but you have to promise not to tell anybody. No, it's not secret. This is the current driver that I'm evaluating, and I put it into this Headphone chassis, or it's technically a drop chassis. And yeah, I call this the duct tape phone. But that's currently what's being evaluated, and this is the one that does not sound as good as the one that I really like. This is the one that is not as detailed, but again, just the diaphragm material is different. The diaphragm material for this one is, I believe it's gold on PEEK. PEEK. Oh, you also work at Google? How many Google employees are in here? Do you guys know each other? Yeah, the duck phone. That's the duck phone. But see, this is the thing, right? Like the measurements of this one, it's actually not bad. Like the tuning is reasonable. There's some wibbles with the driver modes. Wibbles with the driver modes. That doesn't make sense. You get what I mean, though. Wibbles that you see in the FR. But it's not like the good one doesn't have wibbles. So it's difficult to say that wibbles are responsible for this one not being as good sounding. So yeah, this is one of those where, like, when we do an inevitable sort of like test with people, we need to make sure that, like, we know which is which, because you can't really tell just by looking. Like, I guess you could tell if you knew exactly, if you could like peer into it, but we need to maybe like figure out a way to obscure that. But I'm very curious to see how other people find this one as well. Of all the headbands to use, the reason for it is because these were originally supposed to be printed in for a chassis that I already had, but it was slightly too large, so it didn't fit. So I had to improvise. Which IEM is Resolve using? The mic is pretty sensitive, picking up everything. No, it's the microphone that's right here. There's no microphone in the IEMs. It's the Talos. Thoughts on the Batiste? Just got it. Pretty amazing. I agree on the AirPods Pro 2. Forget I am wearing it. Never could say that on the Sonys. Yeah, they're more comfortable than the Sonys for sure. Thoughts on the Batiste? It's probably the most technical, subjectively enjoyable. ANC headphone out there, but I don't want to give, like, I gave my impressions of it basically. I think it's a decent tuning. It's nice and punchy. It sounds really good with the DAC mode. I think that sounds fine. Definitely less about soundstage. I think that's the thing where the Sennheiser might be better. But also, like, the tuning is more, the Sennheiser tuning it's got less at around 2K or like 1.5K, at least on the one that I was testing. I think it was weird. I saw a measurement from Crin that showed like the opposite. So they're difficult to test or to measure. But subjectively, it sounded like there was less at around 2K or 1.5, and then more in the mid treble, which is a typical sort of Sennheiser-ish type of thing. Whereas these I don't know how the Batiste here. The Batiste is a little bit of a more intimate presentation, but also it was clearly the more technically impressive one. So there's that. I'm still waiting on getting that Bower & Wilkins, I don't know how to say that, PX8 in to do the comparison. Any thoughts on the final UX3000? UX3000 is great. It is built like plastic toys from the 80s, but good. It's solid. What's the best neutral tuning IEM you'd pick? In-ear, P8, Oracle, or I'm not sure about the P8. I'm not familiar with that one. Neutral to me is something along the lines of the Audio Oracle. The Mark 1. The Mark 2 is a bit brighter. Does Google want some additional feedback on audio products too? Yeah, there's that would be dope. That would be truly awesome. There's a Metal 571 in the chat, waiting to talk to you. Is this the new collab you're working on, or something to look forward to forthcoming launch? No. So I don't I want to make sure that this is a research project. This is I tried to make that clear early on, but this is a thing that we're trying to get to the bottom of a number of questions with this. First and foremost, in the event that it's something that can be taken to a commercial release, it'd be great to do that, but that's not that's not where it's at right now, right? That is the next, for people who don't know, bringing a product to market is a massive undertaking. That is not as simple as just design, doing a custom driver design. Even though the custom driver design is the R&D that takes the most time and is also very expensive to do. Going from a prototype stage to a commercial release is it's a huge thing. So I would love it. It'd be great if that were a thing that we could do. But I don't want to promise a thing that I don't know that I can deliver on, essentially. Google's tracking Resolve. Yeah. But it's been very eye-opening. I will eventually publish some findings on the effects of just changing diaphragm material and changing, we did another version where we changed. I mentioned this in the original video I did on this, where we were changing parameters around double-sided versus single-sided magnets, and it was very obvious that double-sided was better for this design. Oh, VSG, I just see your Batiste clamp force stuff. Yeah, I found that as well. I found that, and because the pads are so compliant, like they're so soft, um, it's very difficult to know that the result you have on the rig is actually representative of what it would be on a person. Because yeah, it's going to be totally different depending on the person. Um, so, I don't know if you're still in here, VSG, but yeah, I found that as well. Solitaire, you like the Solitaire T better? That's another one that I want to get in. I'm very curious about that one because I saw that one at Munich High End, um, but I didn't try it. So yeah, I'm very curious about that one. The Resolve X Metal 571 X Critical X Gross 46 CA. What are your thoughts on the new Sennheiser Momentum full-sized headphones? I think they're good. I really like them. They are very very difficult to measure, but the sound quality I think is good, and the comfort is good. It's a very solid product. Yeah, that's good. It's only research. I was worried about my wallet. Well, it would be nice if research could at some point turn into a thing that people could buy, right? But it's one of these things where it's like, um, as soon as you, I don't want to cross a bridge that I can't go back on, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to say to people like, hey, there's this thing, get hyped, If anything, you guys should know that I'm the anti-hype machine. Maybe that's not true, but I want to make sure that that this is treated as a research project, for us to understand what goes into headphone development, right? If we're doing headphone reviews, it helps to know how they're made, what goes into all of that, bringing a product to market. There's a lot that goes into that when you just are evaluating the end product, sometimes you don't really think about. So I wanted to get the rest of that context, and then also the other aspect is I want to use this for research to send to people different versions, and we'll maybe this will be a community thing, right? We'll get people from the community to weigh in on this, to get a sense of which version people prefer, and then that can turn into some sort of research outcome. I'll figure that out still. But we need to make sure that it's not recognizable or identifiable as a particular thing. And they each have I'm more just kind of blown away by how I can get everything to match on the rig and they still sound different, and not just a little different. The best version that at least for me, is one that I don't have here at the moment, just because I'm trying to test different things. That one was one that I actually thought had some sense of dynamism to it. But then I had another version where I got it. It measures the same in the bass, identical. And it's not this one, but everything else I was able to affect with EQ to get it to match perfectly, and it didn't even sound remotely the same. So it's one of those things, and I think the answer is FR at the eardrum, differences of FR at the eardrum. But there's enough all else equal here going on that it's I have to think that it is something to do with diaphragm compliance. That has to be what's responsible. Too stiff being bad. um, which are better for sound quality? The Bose, these, or the Bose Quiet Comfort 2? What are these? These? Or the Apple AirPods Pro 2? And also I haven't heard the Bose Quiet Comfort 2, so I can't tell you. I've seen the measurements of that. That looks super shouty to me, but what do I know? Oh, they're sending out pre-ordered teas next week. Very cool. Very cool. Better than original MP, apparently, at least. I haven't heard the Elite myself. Yeah, Elite is like... It's Imperium Plus Pro Max Ultra. uh, it's... There are actually even certain things about the Imperium that I think are better, but the Elite is definitely the one that is more gooder sounding, to my ear at least. Yeah. All right. I've gone for... How long has it been? An hour and a half? Over an hour and a half. I'm looking at VSG. I'm looking at your Batiste measurements right now. They are some of the most difficult headphones to measure, like, period. And it's the kind of thing where, like, you know how certain people do, they won't even bother to do a reseat. They'll just do they'll sweep, twice and that's it, like one for each side. Well, this is one of those examples why that is complete nonsense. It's yeah, you have to do receipts. You have to dive into this. It's good to show the spread like you've done here, right? To indicate, the actual result, that like how it's going to vary depending on the person. Yeah, it's a massive difference. One quick suggestion needed resolve. Which amp would you suggest the best to go with HE1000 SE? I don't know about the best. I would go with something that is low noise specifically. I can't tell you a specific amplifier because, amps, as long as you have something decent, it's not really going to be much different. Maybe look at the Rebel amp. Maybe. Because, and the reason for that is because it is just anecdotally, I haven't tested this, but it is something that can even pair with IEMs without any noise floor, at least the ones that I was testing. And the HE1000 SE is a little bit higher sensitivity. So definitely just make sure that it's low noise and you should be good. Not Synad. There's no reason to care about Synad. Specifically look at noise. Look at the noise measurements. And I think actually Golden may have measured the Rebel amp, maybe. So check that out. But yeah, I would try with the Rebel amp if you can find one. Final thoughts on the Dunu Talos. They are good, not great. With EQ, they are exceptional. Without EQ, they are only decent. That's how I would describe them. All right, I think that's going to be it for the live stream today, guys. I know it's a little bit shorter. I had something else planned, but in the last minute, forgot that at the studio. So this is what we get. I hope you guys have an enjoyable Halloween weekend. Actually, I should have listened to this. I should have been listening to this today, because these are the ones that Metal sent me. So shout out to Metal571. I still need to do a review on these at some point. All right, because this is real endgame right here. Especially with the like. I just realized that. Yeah. I thought it was on the wrong sides for a second. No, it's left and right this way, so it is on the right sides. So this is the next Zeos collab, right, with the red and blue. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I need to review those at some point. They're also decent. They're decent. They're good value. Let's put it that way. But yeah, that's going to do it for the live stream today, guys. Sorry for my camera technical issues, but yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. And just a reminder, again, we have a Discord now, linked in the description. And as usual for the measurement stuff, that's on the Headphone Community Forum, along with the ranking list there. Go check that stuff out. And then stay tuned to the headphones.com community guides, reviews, and articles, blog section on the site. Have a good weekend, guys.